So in this westward expansion, let's look at the Kansas problem. We're talking about this area right here. So you remember California over here, right? So the United States wanted to get some transcontinental railroads going from California over to the west. So we need to figure out what's going on with Kansas, because Kansas was a territory, part of that old Louisiana Purchase territory, hadn't really been developed yet. So what's the matter with Kansas? One of the senators, Stephen Douglas, decided that the issue was that they needed to have more states there. And to encourage more states, they needed more settlement. And in order to get more settlement, they wanted to get more Southerners to move into that area. Remember, that land had been set aside for free soil territory as part of the Missouri Compromise. Now, they're going to pass something called the Kansas-Nebraska Act. And the Kansas-Nebraska Act was there to promote that railroad. Turns out Douglas had some financial interest in doing so, but that's not really the point. The idea is that the reason this is so important is because it's going to overturn the Missouri Compromise. Specifically, they wrote into the legislation not only that there's going to be popular sovereignty in the territory, but it was going to overturn the Missouri Compromise, which opens up all that territory now to possibly be a slave territory. This is going to infuriate the free soilers who are already mad about the Fugitive Slave Act, because you see, with the Fugitive Slave Act as part of that compromise of 1850, Northerners were required to help participate in the return of enslaved people that had run away from the South into the North. They could receive fines or even jail time if they did not help a slave catcher to catch somebody that they accused of being enslaved. Also, the problem with the Fugitive Slave Act is that the accused had no right to testify for themselves, couldn't provide any documentation for themselves, couldn't call any witnesses. So essentially, the Northerners felt like the Fugitive Slave Act was simply a way to catch black people and sell them into slavery. Also, the Kansas-Nebraska Act not only does it upset the free soilers and the abolitionists, it's going to allow popular sovereignty, which means that the people of the territory, the white people of the territory, got to vote on whether or not to have slavery in that territory, which is going to infuriate all the Northerners again, because they thought that that territory was going to be set aside for free soilers. Now, this is going to lead to something called Bleeding Kansas, which we'll talk about in a moment. But as a result of all of this conflict, what we see is a party divide starting to occur here. The Republican Party forms. Now, the Republican Party is going to be a regional party at this point. It's a party of Northern free soilers. They're not abolitionists, not entirely, but they are free soilers. They didn't want the extension of slavery into the West. It's a regional party. We can see that the Whig Party, the Northern Conscience Whigs, are going to become part of this Republican Party. The Southern Party, the Southern Whigs, are going to remain in the South, and they're going to remain pro-slavery. We're going to see the free soilers, abolitionists, people that have been part of the Liberty Party previously, are now going to join up with the Republicans in an effort to stop the expansion of slavery into the West.